With the MLB season right around the corner, these are 6 starting pitchers that I'm avoiding in fantasy baseball for the upcoming year, starting off with the Luis Castillo of the Seattle Mariners, who currently has an ADP of 90th overall. Castillo has long been a reliable and consistent starter, posting an ERA under 4 and 6 consecutive seasons now, while also typically racking up a little over a strikeout per inning. I will admit that he pitches in the most pitcher-friendly environment in all of baseball, while also consistently throwing over 175 plus innings each season, but I do have my doubts about his skills now. Castillo is now entering his age 32 season, and this is around the age where things do start to get a little dicey. His fastball has now suffered a velocity drop in 5 consecutive years straight, with the most alarming drop coming just last season when his fastball averaged 95.7, down from 96.4 in 2023. For a guy who no longer has his once elite changeup, the fastball is the key for Castillo to be able to create longevity for his career. It looks like the velocity did in fact have a major impact as his whiff and chase rates dropped in 2024, ultimately causing his strikeout rate to lower as well. If Castillo's fastball takes another hit this upcoming season, then we could see a major drop-off sooner rather than later. Next up is a tough selection, and that's Tyler Glasnow of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who has an ADP currently sitting at around 60th overall. Listen, I think that Glasnow is and will continue to be one of the top 10 starting pitchers on a per-inning basis, as his talent is unquestionably elite. However, I just can't buy into the price for a guy who has never surpassed 135 innings in a single season during his career. Sure, the strikeout rate will be among the game's best, but if he only pitches 120 innings in 2025, then the overall strikeout total is capped and will ultimately be lower than guys with under a K per inning get carry volume. I also think that with how loaded the Dodgers are and the depth amongst their pitching staff, that they will make it a priority to limit innings of their stars throughout the season. That might include a 6-man rotation during parts of the year, or even potentially skip starts to keep guys fresh. In the end, I just don't see how Glasnow will be able to pay off his hefty price tag unless he pitches over 150 innings, and history does say that the chances of that are highly unlikely. Moving on to the next pitcher to avoid, and that's Freddy Peralta of the Milwaukee Brewers, whose ADP is around 80th overall. Peralta is another one of those dominant strikeout pitchers that often gets pushed up draft boards despite many other skills being average or below average. His strikeout rate has been above 27% in every season of his career, so you know that those will remain constant, but he will likely carry an ERA in the high 3s and a below average whip thanks to both a poor walk rate and home run rate. He also allows hard contact, and that contact also comes most often in the air rather than on the ground. With the ground ball rate sitting at just 37.5%, Peralta is prone to blowups when his strikeout stuff is off on any given night. While the strikeouts are intriguing, considering he reached exactly 200 in 2024, I just don't think he makes up for what will likely be below average ratios, especially for his heavy price tag. His inconsistencies from start to start are not something that I look for personally when I'm investing in a pitcher to be my SP1 or SP2. If you've enjoyed the video thus far, dropping a like and smashing that red subscribe button would be greatly appreciated, as it helps me continue making content just like this, which I will have constantly throughout the upcoming MLB season. Back to the list now, where I'm going with starting pitcher Carlos Rodon of the New York Yankees, who sports an average draft position of 137th overall. Rodon has certainly had an interesting last few seasons, with 2024 looking fine for him on the surface, but I'm betting that he continues to fall away from the ace he once was this upcoming season. When Rodon was at his most dominant self, he was throwing an electric fastball paired with a devastating slider. The problem is that he no longer carries that elite heater. Rodon's fastball got absolutely crushed last season with an expected WOBA of nearly 400. He allows some of the hardest contact in the league, and he rarely induces any ground balls. His walk rate is well below average, and his strikeout rate has taken a step back from his prime years. You put all of these things together, and it's easy to see how Rodon becomes a disaster in 2025. He's essentially a one-pitch pitcher now at this point in his career, and if his famous slider happens to abandon him on any given start, then he's prone to major blowups. For these reasons, Rodon is just not someone that I think is worth where he's going in drafts. Moving on to the next pitcher to avoid, I'm going with Brandon Pfaadt of the Arizona Diamondbacks, coming in with an ADP of 171st overall. Now, I completely understand that Pfaadt doesn't carry the same kind of price that the others do on this list, and for that reason you may want to take a shot on him. However, I just don't understand the sleeper hype around him, considering he's yet to prove any sort of above average production so far in his career. In 2024, Pfaadt posted a 4.71 ERA and a 1.24 whip with around a strikeout per inning. Now, his underlying data does show that he did deserve better than what's shown on the surface, but still nothing to be too excited about. Pfaadt does limit walks at a strong rate, but everything else under the hood suggests that Pfaadt is simply just an average pitcher. For me to want to buy into a player coming off of poor numbers, they must possess certain skills that make me believe that they can take a step forward. Unfortunately, Pfaadt just doesn't do that for me. While his price isn't high as a whole, I still think he's being overdrafted considering that he hasn't showed much promise the past 2 seasons. And finally, the last starting pitcher on my avoid list for 2025 is Kevin Gausman of the Toronto Blue Jays, who has an average draft position sitting at 142nd overall. Gausman was a fantasy ace from 2020 to 2023, largely in part to a filthy splitter that was one of the best pitches in all of baseball. Unfortunately for Gausman, he completely lost the feel for that pitch last season, causing him to rely on a fastball that had its own problems with fluctuating velocity from start to start. When the fastball velo was strong, it was able to bail him out, but when it wasn't, both his fastball and splitter got absolutely crushed. For a guy that's largely a 2-pitch pitcher, Gausman needs both of those pitches to be above average for him to have a remote chance at success. At the age of 34 now, I just don't see a way that either of those pitchers get back to the level of dominance that they once were. Of any pitcher on this list, I'm the most confident that Gausman will be completely off of draft boards at this time next year. Don't fall into the trap of name value boosting a player's stock. And with that being said, that concludes the 6 starting pitchers to avoid for fantasy baseball entering the 2025 MLB season. Let me know in the comments what you agree or disagree with, as well as who you are avoiding this year. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next one.